I'm going to demonstrate two prints, one in relief and one in intaglio. The relief print mimics the look of a lithograph, and I say that because it has that grainy pencil quality that is natural in a lithography stone. When you're printing a lithograph, you use litho crayons and all different types of drawing materials, and the same types of drawing materials can be used on our plate to create this type of a print. The intaglio print mimics a mezzotint, and I say that because it has that really darkness and a really fine grain where you're actually working the plate from dark to light. I'm going to add the carborundum gel to the silk screen. Now, if you have a silk screen with a frame and a squeegee like this, that's perfect, but if you don't, you can simply get away with taping the mesh to the table and then squeegeeing it through. I'm using a 110 mesh and the carborundum gel right from the jar. So we're going to start off with the plate that has been coated with Akua Carborundum Gel. It's an Akua printmaking plate. You see it's flexible and it's also transparent. I have a simple drawing that I'm going to be working with, and I'm placing it on a light table. It's not totally necessary, but it helps. You can put a photograph, you can work spontaneous, or any way that you're comfortable and accustomed to working. So I place the plate down and register it in case I want to do some multi-plates on top of it later on, so it's always nice to have some registration to go by. I'm going to be using a pencil that is geared towards working on paper, glass, plastic, and metal. Once I have my information in place, I'll start by drawing lightly, just as I would a drawing on paper. Okay, I'm going to check and see how it looks on the plate without the drawing underneath. And I see I need to get some darks in there. So at this point I'm going to switch to my number 2 litho crayon. And then I'm going to start building up my darks, just like I would do if I were drawing on paper. Litho crayons can be easily sharpened by using a sandpaper block like this, or what I've trained myself to do is as I'm drawing I twirl it around, so since this is like sandpaper it actually sharpens the pencil as I move around. So as I'm drawing I rotate it to a different side so that the pencil will automatically be sharpened as I need it. For the relief plate, we're going to use the Akua Release Agent. And this is a soy-based product. It cleans up with soap and water, and it has a clear consistency. And what we're going to do is roll this onto the plate so that we can release. We're going to be softening the wax on the plate, and then when it goes through the press, it'll release very easily. Ideally, if you have a large brayer or a large roller and can do it all in one movement without lap marks, that's the best thing, but not everybody has the large rollers. So I'm going to show you how to do it with a Speedball 4-inch brayer. So the idea is you want to roll it out, not too heavily, just a thin coat. And it's difficult to see, so you might want to tilt your head at a certain angle so you can really see how much ink. So that's a little too heavy. This is just perfect. So when you place it on the plate, you want to just do smooth, light coatings and kind of feather it. You don't want to disrupt it too much. And then each time you want to clean the brayer off in case there's any lift off. And this way this stays really nice and clean. Okay, I think that's enough. If you hold it up to light, you may get a better idea of how the release agent is sitting on there. Hold it up against the window and you can see if there's any lap marks. If you see any lap marks, you can go back and kind of just smooth it out slightly. But it's a light feathering touch over the image and clean each time before you put the dirty brayer back into the release agent. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. The release agent takes about 3 minutes to actually do its thing. What it does is it's softening the wax so that when it goes through the press, it'll release really beautifully from plate to print. Okay, we're ready to print. I dampened my paper ahead of time. I'm using Arnhem 1618 and it's damp by just a quick dip in a tray of water and then blotting. And I have a template on the press with the right size paper in relationship to the plate and I'm ready to go. When you're printing the wax plates, you want to make sure you do not have too much pressure. If there's too much pressure, you are going to tear the paper. It's going to stick to the wax. I print maybe 1 or 2 rotations that would be lighter pressure than if I were doing a monotype or an intaglio. I just printed this plate and you can see I still have a lot of the litho crayon left on there, which yields many ghost prints. You can work with candles, clear wax, crayons, or a white china marker. In this print, I did a test on the different types of waxes. This is beeswax. This is beeswax, but it was bleached. This is a candle, and a Hanukkah candle, and a birthday candle. The birthday candles, the candles are all paraffin, so it's a softer wax. And the beeswax is harder, so it does give you different effects. This is how it looks after it was printed. So you can see, you can get a lot of grain. It appears as though the wax is lifting off, but it's actually, what you're doing is you're clogging the pores of the carborundum coarse surface. And in clogging it, you're smoothing out that surface so that when you ink it up and wipe the plate, like intaglio method, you are wiping off the slick surface so the ink will not adhere to the wax, but it will hold on to the tooth of the carborundum. So wherever the wax is heavily built up, it looks as though it's the wax, but it's actually the white of the paper. So I'm going to take my carborundum plate and place it on top of my drawing. And in this case, I'm going to use a white china marker and bear down as hard as you can where you want it to be the whitest of the paper showing through, and then lightly where you want gray or more of a grainy effect. In order to get the white of the paper without any ink adhering, you really have to clog that pore. So I'm going back and strengthening all of that area. I'll set this one aside and get ready for printing. I'm going to be using the Akua wiping fabric. The wiping fabric is much softer than traditional tarlatan, and it's a polyester, it's not cotton, and there's no starch, so you can use it right from the packaging. You don't need to rinse it, it's all ready to go. I have my Akua INTAGLIO ink. I like the lamp black for this print. The lamp black has a blue tint to it. It's a cool black. So once you have the ink out, you would print it like, or ink it up like any other intaglio plate. I'm using a soft brayer to apply the ink. You don't want to use a card. If you use a card, you risk the chance of scraping into the carborundum. So the soft rubber helps push it down into the grooves of the carborundum. So if your plate starts moving around, a simple solution of just water under the plate will hold it down. So once you have the ink over the entire plate, then you can go in with the Akua wiping fabric and roll it into a flat ball, just like you would for any etching, and just wipe until my image appears. So one thing I really like to do is I stop before I wipe all the ink off, and now I can go in with a Q-tip and sort of monoprint, lifting the remaining highlights. So any areas that I really want to be the white of the paper, I'm just cleaning selectively by hand, so it has a nice monoprint look to it. So you're drawing over your drawing, taking it to another level. So I'm getting ready to print this one, but I did add water to the back, so I want to make sure the back of the plate is dry. So drying it with a rag on the table. If you don't dry it, it's going to bleed out when it goes through the press and spoil your margins. Okay. Now I'm going to place this on the press in the same template. Again, I'm using slightly damp paper, not too drastic pressure, preventing it from tearing. You're always better off using lighter pressure and then adding more pressure if need be than starting out too heavily. A little stickier than the first plate, but will do. And I think that drawing took me about 5 minutes to create the plate. And you can do a very small addition.